How many of you have something in your life that you've been wrestling with for years? Something you promised yourself you would change and you didn't. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your finances, your habits, or the way you talk to yourself. You tried, you failed, you got frustrated, you told yourself, I'll do it next time. And next time never came. Until one moment, a moment where something inside you snapped. A moment where you said, not another day, not another hour. And in that instant, everything shifted. That's the moment when excuses lose their power. That's the moment when the past stops controlling the future. Because real change doesn't happen slowly, it happens in a decision. And once that decision is made, your life can change faster than you ever imagined. How many of you can think of something you struggled with for years? Something you swore you were going to change? Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was your body. Maybe it was smoking. Maybe it was something in your work or your emotions. You struggled with it, you promised yourself you'd change, and you didn't. And you got mad at yourself, frustrated, disappointed. You tried again, and again it didn't happen. And then one day something shifted. Something inside you clicked, and you said, not another day, not another hour. And in that moment you changed. That's what I call a breakthrough. A breakthrough is a moment in time when everything changes. When what once felt impossible suddenly becomes possible. And here's the most important part. You don't just think differently, you act differently. A breakthrough isn't an idea, it's a decision followed by action. Now, breakthroughs don't happen for just one reason. They can be triggered by many things. A single conversation with the right person, a loss that shakes you to your core, a new experience that opens your eyes. I can tell you, there were times in my own life when I didn't even know something was possible until I got around people who were living at a level far beyond me. And suddenly I saw it. I felt it. And that vision of what was possible triggered a transformation inside me. A new challenge can force a breakthrough because it's so demanding you have to rise. A new emotion can trigger one too. Sometimes it's excitement, sometimes it's anger, sometimes you just get fed up and say, enough. There are 3 keys to a breakthrough, and they all start with the letter S. The first one most people focus on is strategy. If there's something they want to change, the first question they ask is, how? How do I lose the weight? How do I make the money? How do I fix this relationship? How do I change how I feel? But when you start with strategy, you're making a huge mistake. I call it the tyranny of how. Because when you've never done something before, starting with is overwhelming. You don't have a reference point. You say, I don't know how, I've never done this. And even if someone shows you, often it still doesn't work. Let me give you an example. Over 70% of Americans are overweight. The fastest growing group, people who are overweight by 100 pounds or more. Now ask yourself, are we overweight because the strategies for being fit and healthy are so complex that only geniuses can figure them out? Of course not. How far would you have to go from where you are right now to find someone who knows how to get fit, get strong, and get healthy? For most people, it's within 10 or 15 minutes. Many of you could hire someone to come right to your house. If you don't have money, you could download books, articles, programs, endless resources. Now, don't misunderstand me. Strategy matters. If you have the wrong strategy, it can be disastrous. Years ago, Time magazine put the Atkins diet on its cover. 14% of Americans jumped on it. It worked at first, high protein, rapid weight loss, but it wasn't sustainable. If your breath smells terrible and you have to pee on a stick to check how acidic your body is, that's probably not the long-term answer. People lost weight fast and then gained it back. So yes, strategy matters, but you can't start there because if someone has never succeeded before, even the right strategy won't land. They won't even see it. You tell them, here's how to get fit. They say, I've tried that. You say, really, how many times? In how many ways? With how many different approaches? And what do they usually say? I've tried everything. Or, all the good ones are gone. Or, it just doesn't work for me. And that's where the real problem begins, because the biggest obstacle to a breakthrough isn't strategy at all. It's the story you're telling yourself, the story that gets in the way of change. The second element is the story that gets in the way. Because your story is nothing more than a set of beliefs you tell yourself over and over again. Some of you are in a really tough place right now. Some of you are in a great place and you just want more. And if you're in a tough place, let me promise you something. I've spent my entire life working with people in the most extreme situations imaginable. People who've lost their sight, lost their arms, lost their families, lost everything. And yet they are some of the happiest, most fulfilled, most extraordinary human beings you will ever meet. Why? Because it's not life that controls you. What controls you is the life you focus on. Write this down and never forget it. You are not experiencing life. You are experiencing the life you focus on. Whatever you focus on becomes real to you. That focus becomes your story. And when your story is, I've tried everything, you stop trying, you can have the answer standing right in front of you and you won't even see it. Let me give you a simple example. When I was a kid, we were really poor. I'd work hard all day, ride my bike to get groceries, bring them home, cook the meal, finally sit down to eat, and one of my parents would say, "Get me the salt." I was starving, just taking my first bite, and I'd say, "I don't know where the salt is." I wasn't lying. I didn't know the exact GPS location of the salt. They'd say, "You know what salt is? Go get it." So I'd get up, and all the while I'm saying, "I don't know where the salt is." I'd open cabinets, look around, say, "It's not here. It's not there." And then my dad would walk over, reach right in front of my face, grab it, and say, "What's this?" My eyes saw the salt, but my brain didn't perceive it because I kept telling myself a story. I don't know where the salt is. In psychology, that's called a scotoma, a blind spot. You will never use the right strategy if you're trapped in a limiting story. If your story is nothing works, then when I show you a strategy, you'll say, "I've tried that," or "That only works for rich people," or "That won't work for someone like me." Your story is the glue that keeps you stuck. So what do? You divorce the story of your limitations and you marry the truth of your real abilities. And by the way, some people get divorced and then they keep visiting their ex. Don't do that. Don't keep revisiting your old beliefs. Cut it off. Move forward. Because if you have the right story, you'll find the right strategy, even if nobody shows it to you. But your story is shaped by what you start with. Most people, if they ever change at all, change their story last. I'm telling you, change the order, change your story, and you change your life. If your story is, "I'm always at the bottom of the pile, I try everything and nothing works. I've been through this and that," maybe that's been true, but it's the wrong story. A better story is, "I've been through all of this and it's made me stronger, and now I'm ready. I'm ready for the next step, and here's what I'm going to do." That brings us to your state, your mental and emotional state. You've got to get yourself in state. If you've ever been at home thinking, "Oh man, I've got to figure this out. I've got to turn my life around," in that low energy state, you will never find the answer. But when you're in a powerful state, things flow. You can change your state. You can change the way your mind and emotions are working, and that's where you start. If I can get you in a radically different state, like you see in our seminars where we go full tilt for 12 hours a day, something shifts. People won't sit through a 3-hour movie, but we can get tens of thousands of people in a stadium or around the world digitally fully engaged, fully alive, given everything they've got. In that energized state, now we can create a new belief, a new story. And once that story changes, when I show you what to do, you do it. Your state affects your story. Your story shapes your strategies. And when you're in the right state with the right story, the answers don't just appear, you create them. At the end of the day, your life is not shaped by what you know, it's shaped by what you decide. The moment you change your state, rewrite your story, and commit to a new standard, everything else begins to follow. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop telling the story that keeps you stuck and start living the one that moves you forward. Because the truth is, you are far more capable than you've been giving yourself credit for. The breakthroughs you're waiting for aren't somewhere out in the future. They're waiting on a decision you're willing to make right now. When you decide that settling is no longer an option, when you raise your standards and act in alignment with who you really are, your life will change. And it won't change someday. It will change the moment you decide that today is the day everything shifts.